that the core competencies of police, fire, and infrastructure maintenance would take precedent over the quality of life departments. And that was because we have a declining revenue line every year, and we have to have our expenditures meet that declining revenue line. Option one, unfortunately, which is now the budget, still, with the closure of our quality of life venues, brings our police department coverage to 1978 levels. And there was also an option two that was considered where everybody, all departments across the board, if you will, would share in deep cuts. And that would have saved the library. But it would have resulted, instead of laying off 47 people in the police department, it would have laid off 67 people in the police department, and that way we would become unsustainable. There's been talk about employee concessions, and we're making them, and I continue to negotiate in concessionary bargaining. The fact of the matter is that we have 6 labor unions that have certain rights, and I have to respect those rights, as does the governing body. And we are going through concessions at this time, but the cuts are so deep I can't take them on the backs of my employees.
Mr. Zerlag, the $4 million and the results in the police that you described in option 2 was simply for 1 year. The following year would take additional. Should this come before us, would we not then be left with the library and nothing else?
I think that's a correct statement. I'd like to verify that. Because once the $4 million is expunged, it's expunged essentially as a revenue. And my revenue line is declining. Again, I think it would have taken an additional 20 police officers to lay off, because essentially there was no one else to lay off in the balance of the city. I'd have to see what ramifications, if I was told to maintain $3 to $4 million for a library every year, and that became your priority, an option 3, if you will, how the rest of the city would look. I would think we'd be unsustainable, but I'd have to verify that.
Well, I think it's alarming, because I was just at the library. I'm at the library 4 days a week, but should someone be breaking and entering my house, I can't throw a book at them. I really would actually like to call 911 and have a quick response, and I'm depending upon our public safety officers to do that. So this is quite a concern for people who believe in this magical thinking that it's just moving money around. We are in a serious hole, and we are with no alternatives. So simply to say, make it happen when the budget is posted and transparent on there. The $4 million isn't there. It's missing for the following year, and this is just fantasy.
They're hard decisions. That's why, to my knowledge, only Oakland County and the city of Troy have adopted a 3-year rolling budget and are taking control of their future. That's why Standard & Poor's rating agency out of New York City gave the city of Troy a AAA bond rating, because we do have a 3-year budget, even though it's not pretty. After that, I can make no guarantees. But the short answer to your question is yes. If a crime is committed, you want to call a police officer and not a librarian.
I'd like to make a couple of comments regarding public comment with the library and what the city has and has not done to make our city more efficient with less funds. There has been a great deal of work by the city council and by the staff to privatize the building department, privatize the golf courses. We had to lay off numerous city employees so that those that are left are doing all of that work but with less support. We have had to cut back on many activities that this city has come to enjoy over the years. The city council has had to make difficult decisions with regard what is most important to fund in this city, and we did that even though it was a difficult decision. Therefore, we are going to be telling our population more and more of the things that have been done within this community to meet the standard that we believe the citizens asked us to do when they turned down the millage in February. Those that supported it thought we were already doing a very efficient, good job. But there were people who said we were not doing a good job. So we have verifiable information to provide to show what we've been doing. And so for people to come to our microphone and disparage an attempt to save the library, which any educated, sophisticated, even rural communities have, that was done as a citizen initiative because they knew that the City Council had already made the decision about where money would come. For those that say we'll just have a petition so that we can have the library stay in place, what they are saying is the library would be in place, but there would be less of public safety services that could be provided to this community. And I cannot believe this community would stand for that when that is one of the core things that communities are required to do, is to provide for health, safety, and welfare. So it is very upsetting to me personally and to the council as a whole to have to hear week after week many things which are untrue. And it is especially sad that people think that they can use the public comment venue in a way that does not really truly serve our community and show the wonderful community that we are. It is very sad indeed. Any other comments before we go on with our regular business? Councilwoman Kerwin, do I see Councilwoman McGinnis signaling?
I can go after.
Well, because Councilwoman Kerwin has, our rules say that we need to let others, so yes, Councilwoman McGinnis?
I just wanted to point out something, so this is more of a comment than a question, but it is nestled into our agenda way down in N8, and I feel like those that may not go through the whole agenda and read all the details may miss it, and it specifically outlines the summary for how we somehow managed to maintain our AAA bond rating, which is something that sets us apart from all the other cities in Michigan. And I just wanted to note that it says here, their biggest concern was without the ability to raise taxes, it was Standard & Poor's view that the city's operating flexibility would be limited, particularly if the city's tax base contracted. But the reason that they chose to allow us to maintain that was because for these specific reasons, the city also adopted a 3-year budget that spans fiscal 2011 through 13. And although the city plans to use a portion of its reserve to balance the budget, management has also outlined in the budget document a variety of spending cuts, such as staff reductions and the closure of its library, museum, community service, and nature center. So I just wanted to point out that it's these difficult decisions that are allowing us to maintain in the difficult times.
Mr. Korber, we must keep the door open. I'm sorry. In a public meeting, we must keep it open. They'll be gone down the hall. They have to clean at night when. You can move up to the front. And by the way, we did fix our sound system so that it's easier to hear in the audience than it used to be. But you can move up if you'd like. Councilman Slater?
Mayor, I also think there was a misrepresentation by a speaker regarding warning tickets, and I wonder if somebody could address that if possible, but I'm pretty positive that was a misrepresentation.
I'd be happy to respond, but Captain Mott would be happier. I hope that she's in somewhere within my voice.
It was right here.
I believe the police department told us that October 1st would be a great grace period up till October 1st, and I know personally that the police department does not get revenue for warnings. So if Captain Mott could just address the misrepresentation, I'd appreciate it.
I apologize, Councilman Slater. I missed your question.
One of our speakers during public comment said that he read in an article that the city was receiving revenue from 200 warning tickets regarding our distracted driving ordinance, and I wonder if you could comment on that.
Yes, the warnings which we are issuing as a result of our effort to educate the public rather than just enforce without an adequate education level to begin with, so that people understand that we plan to begin enforcing the ordinance. Warnings do not carry any revenue at all. There is no cost associated with warnings, and there's simply a mechanism to educate the public. In addition to the warning, we are providing literature to the citizens so that they can educate themselves regarding the details of this new ordinance, because we do understand it is new, and we hope that people will come to understand the ramifications of their actions. So there is absolutely no revenue to the police department or the city at all.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, a follow-up.
Councilman Kerwin?
Just to follow up on that, and the speaker again said that some things of these would be considered reckless driving. Again, talk about the penalties for reckless driving and the difference between distracted driving, which was an ordinance that we went ahead and passed.
Yes, this is the main reason why we adopted this ordinance, is because it offered us a mechanism to address the problems that are associated with distracted driving without penalizing the citizens to a degree that for most is a significant burden. For example, the distracted driving carries no points at all. There is a fine. If we were to stop someone for some of the same activities that would warrant a distracted driving ticket, up until we had this ordinance, we would have only a couple of options. One would be to write a reckless driving ticket, which has 6 points as well as a fine, or careless, which has 4 points. And if you're not familiar with the point system, over time, the effect that it would have on your insurance rates is it becomes almost punitive. So the distracted driving accomplishes our objective, which is to prevent and eliminate the dangerous behaviors that people engage in without unduly punishing people who don't have any malicious intent. So that was the whole purpose there.
Thank you, Captain Mott. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Fleming?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a follow-up, Captain Mott. I believe the speaker indicated there had been 200 distracted driving warnings issued. Is that correct, or is that a misstatement?
I don't have that information. I don't. It doesn't sound like it's out of the realm of possibility, though.
Is this on the same subject, or Councilman Slater?
I'm all set, thanks.
Thank you, Captain Mott.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Kerwin, when you gave the floor over to Councilman McGinnis and Councilman Slater, would you like to continue?
It's my last thing, and thank you for your indulgence. And it's either to the assessor or to the city manager. It has something to do with. I want to thank Councilmember McGinnis for bringing up the AAA bond rating, because it's a huge saving to the community. It's a huge saving, and says much about our management. However, again, should this library petition come from Mr. Kempen's group pass, and it says you must then fund this library at $4 million, and changes the parameters we've already set forth and been approved by the bond rating companies, how would that impact our AAA bond rating?
Mr. Zerline?
I think the issue is more of how it would impact the sustainability of the City of Troy as an organization. Again, budgets are more about meeting a revenue line than about where you're going to allocate expenditures. So if we have to take $4 million of our revenue that would normally be allocated for public safety venues, including infrastructure maintenance, and allocate that toward a library, then the $4 million has to come off of the infrastructure public safety areas. So in terms of our bond rating, I think, again, because we had a 3-year budget, which said essentially we would still be here in 3 years, and unfortunately, I believe many other communities will not be here in 3 years because of the severity of our economic crisis. We will be here. But in terms of having a budget document that essentially takes us to a very low level of sustainability for police and infrastructure maintenance areas. Without quality of life venues, if you were to force a quality of life venue, you saw our budget document. You know that when we're finished with all of the layoffs and cutbacks, I could fit all of the administration into the initial township hall. There'll be 40 people left in this building, 40 people left. I'm working with the private sector now to see if there is, to see what the best way to go is in terms of a recommendation if you want to sell or lease this property. That's how many people we're going to cut. If you were to keep the library open, I'd have to cut that. I'd have to cut 4 million jobs, $4 million of jobs essentially out of police and public works, because our fire department essentially is volunteer. Our fire department is $4 million. Go to any other city our size and you can probably triple that cost.
Thank you.
Any other? Okay, then we'll move on to, there are no postponed items, so we'll go to regular business. And the first item of business for action is I-4, and that is the preliminary site plan approval. Oh, excuse me. I have had a request for a 10-minute break. I'm sorry. We're at 9:10, so we'll take a 10-minute break. Come back to that item. 10 minutes?
Are you going to be here for the whole meeting?
What?
Okay, if you're here, I'll talk to you after. If not, I'll come.
As promised, the item before us is the preliminary site plan approval, file number SP 957, Troy Birmingham Intermodal Transit Facility, south of Maple Road, west of Coolidge, Section 31, Zone M1, light industrial, controlled by consent judgment, and that's why it comes to us. Okay. And Mr. Brent Zavedan is going to present for staff.
You are correct, Madam Mayor. That's why it's before you this evening.
Right.
The applicant is the City of Troy, and the city seeks preliminary site plan approval for the Troy Birmingham Intermodal Transit Facility. The transit center is comprised of a 2.7 acre parcel located on the east side of the tracks in Troy, and a 2.5 acre parcel on the west side of the tracks in the city of Birmingham. And the two sides will be linked by a tunnel under the tracks. But the design team will give a detailed presentation in a few moments explaining the site design. The site, as you indicated, Madam Mayor, is controlled by consent judgment. Therefore, actually, that permits the transit center on the site, and that is the reason why it's before you this evening. The City Council is responsible for approving the preliminary site plan for this application. The Planning Commission was a recommending body for this application. The Troy Planning Commission and the Birmingham Planning Board have reviewed the transit center site plan 7 times in joint meetings since the first meeting in April of 2009, which is about 17 months ago. Excuse me. The design team has been very responsive to comments generated by the Joint Committee. The design has continued to evolve and actually, quite frankly, improve as a result of input from the joint Troy Planning Commission and Birmingham Planning Board committees. Some of the significant revisions to the site plan include a complete redesign of the transit center building, including shape, materials, size, a complete redesign of the platform canopy on the Birmingham side, and also the addition of an elevator on the Troy side. At the last meeting, the joint meeting of the two boards on September 8th, 2010, the Birmingham Planning Board actually granted preliminary site plan approval to improvements on the Birmingham side. The Troy Planning Commission recommended preliminary site plan approval for the improvements proposed for the Troy side of the project, but they did recommend that a design workshop be held prior to final approval with members of the Troy Planning Commission, the Birmingham Planning Board, the HRC design team, and staff from both Birmingham and Troy. The workshop would be held prior to final site plan approval with the goal of adding additional site and building design changes in a number of areas. And you've all got the resolution in front of you to look at it. If City Council makes a determination that a design workshop is necessary, they can direct city management to schedule and conduct that design workshop. The appropriate time to conduct the design workshop would be following preliminary site plan approval. I would note that any modifications to the preliminary site plan will result in added time as well as added consultant costs. It would also have to be reviewed by the Birmingham Planning Board. The preliminary site plan meets zoning ordinance requirements. Furthermore, it meets the requirements of the consent judgment. So city management recommends approval of the preliminary site plan for the transit center as submitted without an additional design workshop. At this time, I'd like to introduce members of the design team. They'll be making a brief presentation on this project. I'd like to introduce Jim Surhai and Mike McDonald, who are civil engineers from Hubbell, Roth & Clark, HRC. Larry Ancipa, who's an architect with Hubbell, Roth & Clark, and Jim Epping of J. Epping Partners Incorporated, who's a landscape architect for the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Brent.
Good evening.
Good evening. Again, my name is Jim Surhai. I'm with Hubbell, Roth & Clark, a senior project engineer. My responsibilities on the job are for the civil and the site design work. We're here tonight to present this project to you. I think it's an exciting project. It's not just the train station. It's an intersection of the train service and bus service and pedestrian traffic, and we think it's be very important for both cities. We'll be, with the pedestrian tunnel that's proposed, it'll provide a much-needed non-motorized interconnection between the city of Birmingham and Troy. Pedestrians right now either have to go along Maple Road or 14 Mile Road and go under the tracks. I think this project will be a real nice addition to the city. Tonight we're just going to give a brief presentation, so if you have any questions, we'll be here available at the end to answer them if you need more detail on anything we cover. You see in front of you the outline, so we'll move on. Right now we have a vicinity map. It's an aerial photo of the area. We have our color landscape site plan superimposed on the drawing to show you where the site is located in general. It's south of Maple Road and west of Coolidge, behind the Midtown Square Shopping Center. See some of the store names on the slide to give you a sense of where that's at. The existing Amtrak platform is located about 1,000 feet north of where the proposed platform will be. With this project, we'd be replacing that station, and this would become the new location to board the Amtrak train. On the Birmingham side, you would get access to the site through Villa and Hazel Street, at the north end through the Crosswinds development. It's a mixed residential and commercial development. We'll be building a new access drive on that side of the project, which will pass by the site and then also connect to Cole Street at the south end. On the Troy side, you get access to the site from Coolidge and Maple off of Doyle Drive. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. The next slide is just isolating our overall site plan. Again, to give you an orientation, the CN Railroad is across the middle of the site. The city of Troy would be on your right-hand side and Birmingham on the left. The basic layout of the site includes a transit center building, which would be on the Troy side, sorry. And the Amtrak platform will be on the access from the Birmingham side, and then the two sides of the site are connected by a pedestrian tunnel that will be built beneath the railroad tracks. We'll go over the site in a little bit more detail later in the presentation, and right now I'm just going to pass it over to Larry Ancipa, who would go over the building and platform design.
Good evening. Let me see. For the Troy Transit Facility, I'd just like to say that the design team comprised of the City of Troy, the City of Birmingham, and the technical people from HRC, CWA, and JEP are excited and proud about the new building and canopy that has evolved over the last several months and that you have for consideration in front of you tonight. The building size, this is the floor plan, and the building size was determined using Amtrak standards and a traffic impact study that was conducted. The building right now the station is classified as a small station with ridership in over 10,000 people per year, and that will grow to a medium-sized station in the year 2027 with ridership exceeding 50,000 per year. The building program is based on the services necessary to support the facility. The main area is a waiting area. We also have over in this side the elevator, which will allow users to access the tunnel entrance. And we've provided, there's kiosk spaces which can be used for ticketing or commercial services at some time in the future. In the floor plan, this has evolved. It's been fairly constant in size, but it has evolved significantly from the original schematic design report that was published about 2 years ago. The big one was the elevator on this side. This lobby was inserted along with the elevator to allow users access to the elevator at any time during the day in the event that the building was going to be locked. We also reconfigured the main entrance, which is the northeast corner of the building, with a new vestibule and lobby area. And additional seating was developed along the north wall to compensate for area that was taken by the elevator and by the vestibule. We also moved the kiosk that originally had been over on the west side of the building to the southeast corner. The building elevations, with their material selections, reflect compatibility with the surroundings. The facility is compatible with the character of the site and still be identified as unique. The brick, limestone, and glass achieve an elegant, contemporary style while capturing a traditional feel with the use of the materials. The colors chosen are the red brick and the limestone, which are compatible with the buildings on the adjacent sites. We've taken the strong limestone band across the top, and we've also shown it in limestone accents on the building, which help highlight the main entrance at the northeast corner. We've got a steel canopy that'll shelter the people as they enter the building, and that also provides an additional visual for the transit users to locate the main entrance to the building. The use of the glass, the large glass area, provides for the transparency in the building that the original project vision statement had. The south elevation, we've taken the limestone color and moved it into a limestone veneer in the back. This was done to lighten this side of the building to reduce solar gain on the building. The roof is sloped from the north side to the south side, and that will increase the daylighting that is allowed to come into the building along the north side and decreases the amount of building that's exposed to the sun along the south side. The roof slope also, as you approach from the south side, you'll be able to see the green roof, the vegetated roof that'll be on the top of the building. The platform and canopy carries along the same brick, limestone, glass, and sloped roof that were developed for the building, so that this platform, along with the building, will present a unified design to the user so it looks like one facility and not two different communities coming together. We've got the brick columns with limestone accents on them. There are 4 individual enclosures on the platform so that in inclement weather, a user can go into the enclosure and seek some shelter. We have a storage room on the south end for an Amtrak required accessibility device. And the shelters will be heated with radiant heaters in each of the shelters. They will be activated by motion detectors so that they are only on when there are people in the shelter. This will help to further enhance the sustainability goals of the project. The facility will be designed to the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design Program, LEED. LEED is an internationally recognized green building certification program providing third-party verification that the building was designed and built using strategies intended to improve performance in energy savings, water efficiency, CO2 emission reduction, improved indoor environmental quality, and stewardship of resources and sensitivity to their impacts. The design team has selected the silver certification level in the LEED rating system for the project. The silver certification level requires an achievement of 50 to 59 points in a 100 base point system. This slide shows the main LEED characteristics that we're going after to gain points: the green vegetated roof, stormwater management, and that'll be achieved through the green roof and rain gardens that'll be incorporated and talked about a little bit later. Rainwater harvesting where that'll be reused to flush the toilets in the building, geothermal HVAC for the building, LED lighting throughout both interior and exterior for the building, and regional materials and recycled materials. This is a site cross-section that shows how the transit center fits in with the site. We have on the east side the shopping center, which is quite massive. And while our building isn't terribly large, it still does represent a significant footprint and a mass on the site, which will be easily recognizable by the users. And the east side of the site has the electrical towers, which provide a large scale on the west side of the site, excuse me. And with that, I'll turn this back over to Jim to take you through the site.
Okay, I'm showing you here right now the overall site plan again. Just to let you know, I rotated it so I could blow it up a little bit more. In this view, north is to your left. Again, so at the top of the slide would be the side of the site on Troy. That's in Troy, CN Railroad across the middle. And the part of the Birmingham, the part of the site that's in Birmingham is at the bottom of the slide. The basic layout of the site here again, we have the transit center on the Troy side. You could, hard to see in there, but a little X representing where the elevator would be located within the building. The Amtrak platform will be on the Birmingham side, and both sides again are connected by this pedestrian tunnel going under the tracks. You can see on the Troy side, parking's being provided in the existing parking lot that's out there right now. We'd be proposing to modify the south end of it, expand the island in there, provide some opportunity for additional landscaping and signage, also improve circulation, increase the number of handicap spots, and we're also providing 2 spots that are designated for electric vehicle parking. On the Birmingham side, again, we have the access drive between Cole Street to the south and the Crosswinds development to the north. Along the access drive, we'll have new parking added there, as well as with their own handicap spots and 2 spots for electric vehicles. The site as a whole is designed to be a barrier-free site. It's going to be open. It's going to be accessible by all people. The project was previously, the plans were submitted to the City of Troy's Advisory Committee for Persons with Disabilities, and they reviewed it and were satisfied with the level of effort that we were putting forth to accommodate all persons who may have disabilities. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on each portion of the site in Troy and Birmingham, kind of those outlines there giving you a reference of where we're going next. On the Troy side, so I don't have to use a pointer too much, I highlighted in the different colors some of the points I wanted to talk about on the site. First of all is the transit center building, which is in orange. Again, you see that a little bit better at this scale. You see the elevator at the corner of it. The elevator obviously will go from the building and take you down to the elevation where the tunnel is at, which is about 10 feet below existing grade. So the area in purple there is the plaza area, and the tunnel entrance is going off the view over to Birmingham. Users would get access to that tunnel elevation either through the elevator, along a set of stairs on the outside, or along this long sloped walkway, which will be less than 5% slope, so it's not considered a ramp by ADA standards. Also, again, this is an intermodal facility, and we're talking about providing bus service. We've been working with SMART throughout the project, and they've incorporated this facility into their regional plan, where they're going to use this station as a hub station, where they have a number of routes that will stop here and will intersect here. People will get off the bus, wait for transfers. So they have requested that we provide space to allow 4 buses at one time if the need arises. We don't have the information right now of exactly timing and how many buses will be there at any one time or not. So that's shaded in green are those bus slips right along Doyle. And then we're also providing 4 bus shelters, which will be glass, steel framework with glass enclosures to provide protection from the elements. We'll also have a set of, this pedestrian plaza located right outside the entrance to the building, which is at the intersection of many of the pathways that a user would be using to cross the site. We're providing crosswalks. These will be raised crosswalks, meaning they'll be elevated several inches above the road grade at both ends of the site to provide a safe place for pedestrians to cross the road and get access to the parking area or to the bus slips on that side of the road. In the parking area, again, we reconfigured it to what's existing out there today. We expanded this central island to improve circulation. We are adding a second entrance to the parking lot for safety and also to improve the circulation. By reconfiguring this space, we were able to designate this area in yellow, which will be a passenger drop-off area or just for short-term temporary parking. In the blue, we will have designated bike lanes through our site. We'll be putting new striping down on Doyle Road, which will effectively narrow the road. That effort, along with the raised crosswalks and then our pavement type, where we're showing this crosshatch pattern, will be a concrete pavement, which will just by nature contrast with the existing asphalt pavement there. All those measures we believe will all be traffic calming measures, and will designate the space as different from the roadway, and that to alert drivers that there's going to be pedestrians and other sorts of traffic there. Jump over to the Birmingham side and briefly go over that. Again, in purple, we have our pedestrian tunnel, which comes over from Troy into this lower elevation plaza area. On the Birmingham side, you'll note there's not an elevator. The City of Troy, or City of Birmingham Planning Board voted at our last meeting to not include an elevator on their side of the site. You would get access to this tunnel or leave the tunnel to get up to the platform, either through, again, a stairway and a ramp that's up to the platform elevation, or along another slope sidewalk and backtracking a little bit back to the ramp and up to the platform. Throughout the site, same on the Troy side, to achieve this grade change of, like say, about 10 feet from existing, we're going to have to construct some significant retaining walls. There'll be retaining walls that are parallel to the tracks, and then on the Troy side also immediately in front of the building. And here's our retaining walls on the Troy side. This is an elevation view, which is showing you an example of the coloration and the patterns and different treatments that we propose to employ on these walls. These walls in general are going to be cast in place concrete and with a form liner finish with brick pattern in the insert areas, which would be colored to match and complement what's being used with the building and the platform canopy and shelters. In between these bands would be smooth finished concrete just to differentiate or break up the mass of that wall. At the tunnel entrance, we'll be providing a structural canopy and limestone accents on top of the wall along those steps to enhance or highlight that entryway. And then throughout the site, where there's a need for them, we'll have safety rails, which will be stainless steel with glass inserts. So again, they'll be highly visible. And along the stairways, there'll be stainless steel handrails with embedded with LED lighting. The lower part of the slide is showing the retaining wall that's immediately in front of the building. You'll note on here it's showing a stairway with the handrails and also the rain garden that Larry mentioned that will provide some interest to the landscaping, which we'll go over further here. Also in this view, you'll see the elevator door entrance at the lower level. The elevator access will be recessed about 8 feet away from the face of the wall. So you can't really see it from this view, but I've included, it's a little more detailed section of one of our engineering drawings, but it's showing the recessed area between the face of the wall and then where the elevator door would be. That'll provide shelter from the elements for people that are waiting for the elevator. On the Birmingham side, this is showing their major retaining wall that's parallel to the tracks. Again, we're mimicking a lot of the same features such as the canopy and limestone accents, as well as a brick pattern and coloration. And we think through those techniques we'll make a very attractive wall. Throughout the site, Larry mentioned, to help with the LEED certification, we're going to be using LED lighting. That doesn't stand for LEED. That's the light emitting diode type of light fixture, which is different than your normal incandescent bulb. On the site, we'll be using the LED lights in the utility or in the light poles, which is what we're showing with this OA type of light. The OC here is a lighted bollard that would be used throughout the site, and the OG is showing lights that would be mounted at, on the canopies or on the building to provide downlighting at certain areas. Picture I show of this OA type light fixture is a type we were looking at using on the site. With these sort of fixtures, we're able to design or pick a design for the pole that will show some distinction to the site. I don't have a picture example, but we have our line drawing that we're proposing of how we're going to mount this fixture. It'll be a little bit longer mast arm to support the light, as well as having this tie-back element that'll mimic the design of the structural canopies. We ran a photometric analysis of the lighting on site. The photometrics are showing the light intensity for the proposed lighting, as well as we included these bright spots in the parking lot are the existing lighting that's out in the parking lot right now. We believe the site, the lighter colors, are showing a brighter intensity, and as the shade gets a little darker, it's showing lesser intensity. We believe the site is going to be very well lit, and with the lighting that's being proposed, the openness of the design, and the use of, we were proposing it's going to be, again, an unmanned station, but there'll be security cameras located throughout the site, this will be a very safe place to be and comfortable for users to use at any time of the day or night. I'll pass over the presentation to Jim Epping, our landscape architect, for the project.
Thank you.
Could I request that you do a short version of this?
I will do a very short version.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Jim Epping. I'm the landscape architect, and we've worked right alongside with Carlisle Wortman Associates in Hubbell, Roth, and Clark, and of course the two communities. Really what I'll do is very quickly, because the landscape has the ability to just make this beautiful but also make it functional. The city's charged us with really 6 goals. Was one, to create an urban and civic place, to make it a usable space, both in terms of circulation, security, gathering, and so forth, to, of course, make it beautiful, to use it as a demonstration project for lead design for other future projects that may come before Troy or for Birmingham, so that we can point to this and say this is a successful demonstration of how those uses can be, to make it sustainable, and of course also to make it cost effective as it relates to landscape, both in terms of installation, but maybe more importantly, ongoing costs. All I need to say for this slide is that both sides were designed as a campus. The buildings obviously integrate with one another, the walls integrate with one another, but the landscaping, drainage, everything becomes really one unified, beautiful concept. In terms of the hardscape elements, as Jim and Larry indicated, we thought about circulation. We created a large plaza, a gathering area, which I'll show you in a minute, has a compass design on it. We've done some really clever things and I think innovative things in terms of drainage, where we've integrated decorative permeable pavers to interlock with some of the drainage. We've included a rain garden, which will help with drainage and beautification as well. So we've got a series of things that both make it a beautiful place, a fairly simple place, and a safe place as well. Here's an image of some of the inspiration that we took from other campus emblems throughout the area. One is in Plymouth, one is down by the waterfront. But what we're envisioning is a large central gathering area that starts to talk about movement, starts to talk about direction as you're getting onto a bus or on a train. So there's a lot of design cues that come about from what the station is. It's a place of movement and of direction. It's a great opportunity. The station is a great opportunity for public art. This is not an example of what public art will be there, but maybe some inspiration for what can be there. Originally, the building envisioned some type of tall tower. We're recommending that really takes the form of some public art, that perhaps there's a competition or something in the future that would define what that vertical element is. The walls also have a great opportunity to display public art. And lastly, the Birmingham side, I really wanted to just show that we complement one another. We have rain garden on both sides in the lower area that will recycle the water. We have a compass emblem as well, and we've taken the time to really integrate all the materials, both in terms of design and function. With that, I believe I'll turn it back over to your commission as well as to Brent, and we're here to answer any questions. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Council, do you have questions on any of the information that we received, either in the site plans that we received or in the presentation? No? Seeing none. Then I think we're ready for a resolution. I know that several of my colleagues may have a differing opinion, but I am going to move the resolution that it is A, that is recommended by the city management, and hope that I will gain a second so that I can clarify why I feel we should do that.
I'll support that.
Moved by the chair, second by Councilman Slater, that we approve Resolution A as recommended by the city management. Discussion. While I feel that the Planning Commission had some areas that they wanted to look at as far as in a design workshop, I feel that since there have been 7 times that the joint meeting of the Planning Commissions have reviewed and evolved this, that we should move forward. It's interesting, as I received these plans, I watched a television program that viewed the Marble House in the East, which the Vanderbilts built. And I thought, you know, we are building a transit modal model center here. We're not building Marble House. We're not building a mansion. And I think that we have enough input on a practical building that has some design elements in it that meet with what the use is. I also think that the landscaping is very appropriate, and I like the fact that it's a LEED building. But I just do not see us going through more changes, which I feel will not really affect a better building. Those are my comments at this time. Further discussion on Resolution A?
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Beltrame?
I have a question for, I guess it's either the city attorney or Brent, if I might, please. This is a joint project, and I know Brent, when he made his presentation, talked about the pitfalls of allowing changes of any kind to the site plan after it's approved tonight. However, in reading the minutes of the September 8th meeting, it was not just members of our Planning Commission who had suggestions and concerns about this proposal. Also, there were Birmingham commissioners, and they have more power after the preliminary site approval. I noticed that Brent was very careful when he gave his presentation to say that not that the Birmingham Commission gave, or the Birmingham Planning Board gave preliminary site approval to this. He said to the Birmingham side, just as we will give site approval to the Troy side. However, there were concerns of people on the Birmingham Planning Board with the Troy site and how it integrated with their site. Because of that, do they have any say in this?
Mrs. Blum?
Madam Mayor, this is a joint project, and it is a joint body that has been convened. I want to clarify that you do, as council, have the ability to have it sent out. I mean, if you wanted to have the design before you vote on this, you do have that option. It would likely delay things, but that is an option that you have. What I would strongly recommend, however, is that Birmingham be presented with the information and have an opportunity in a session that is noticed for the public as well, so that the public can also have an opportunity to have their input as well.
I wasn't looking necessarily to have it sent out. I just wanted to know that if we approve this per the mayor's proposal, and then our planning commissioners and the Birmingham planning commissioners, or just the Birmingham commissioners, wanted to see something more happen to this plan, that's not available, or it is?
It certainly is available. It may add some time to the process, but certainly you do have some options here. It just needs to be presented to them, and Brent correctly did point out that Birmingham passed the Birmingham portion of it, and the City of Troy is responsible for approving the City of Troy portion.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Councilwoman Kerwin?
Council Member Beltramini mentioned the minutes, which were included, and I also noticed that in the minutes it talked about keeping the cablecast program for perpetuity. And I think it would be nice if we actually saw that on our own cable, because the one that was filmed in Birmingham I don't think was cablecast by us, and it would be helpful. So I will not be able to speak to that because I haven't seen it, but unlike some who have UVerse, AT&T, and don't show our city channels, and some who haven't had an opportunity to watch the Planning Commission joint meetings, I have. And they have been very good meetings. And they have been well chaired on our side by Mike Hudson, which is sometimes challenging with so many players in the room, but I think they have been really well done. However, I can see the frustration on the Planning Commission, and it's in part from the direction that has been given. I'll tell you, I have served on a state committee before, TIAC, and when we first attended that meeting and we were impaneled, it was made very clear to us. The state board said, we are required by law to have this advisory meeting, but we don't have to incorporate any of the advice. And that is part of the crux of this. So I would watch the Planning Commission meetings with so many talented folks, and over I would hear told to these folks, well, remember your role. Your role is to review and to advise, and that's it. And I would hear planning commissioners say over and over, well, who's the petitioner? Isn't the petitioner the city? Because on a regular petitioner, you would have someone there with whom you could work. And there was this kind of stoicism on behalf of the city is just, going through this. I am very pleased to see this come out as a result of some of these later meetings, because I remember specifically watching the meeting that was held here, where the vision was again articulated by those at the table, and yet the original artist's rendering was held up. And both bodies said, where does this incorporate the vision we've been talking about? And that's that sense of frustration, meeting after meeting after meeting, where changes didn't happen. This shows some changing. However, watching that meeting where both sides, wonderful people, bright, clever, would say, show us the wayfinding. Where's the wayfinding? It would be like, oh yeah, the wayfinding, right? So there were great ideas articulated, not yet finished. And I have not yet seen that meeting, which I call to see, Mr. Manager. I want to see that copy of the meeting missed and recorded on the other side. However, I believe that we would be better served on that half-day workshop recommended through Resolution B, where all of the parties get together again and look at this and try to generate, not in a time-consuming manner, but a half-day, those ideas and those implementations, which I think would make this a better plan. I agree with the Resolution B. I appreciate Chairman Hudson coming here tonight and voicing, may not agree, but he understands that the Planning Commission speaks through the resolution, not looking for long delays. However, I truly hesitate, after sitting on this council and sitting on Planning Commission, to pass this until that opportunity has been afforded. And I would hope that that opportunity would be afforded next week, right away. Get the bodies together and see what can happen. And that's, I will be voting no on Resolution A tonight, and I would like to see Resolution B passed.
Further discussion of the motion?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Fleming?
I'll be voting no on A as well, and I agree with Councilwoman Kerwin. I think the Planning Commission's done an excellent job. I really do. And but I think we need to afford them that half day to finalize this thing. We don't want to drag it out, but half day, do it. Make sure you've got all your recommendations there. Have this session. So I'll be supporting Resolution B, not A.
I need to ask a question. If the half-day workshop, design workshop does occur, and there are additions to what is already suggested, what type of cost figure might we be looking at? I think that Councilwoman Beltramini asked a similar question in an email, which we received an answer to. But what kind of things will we be looking at as far as changes? Because I don't know how substantive the changes might be.
The response that we have from Mr. Van Dett, who I'm going to have delve into my answer further, is that it would be in the tens of thousands of dollars. And I'd like Steve to indicate if that's a reimbursable cost, and if not, where would the funding come from? So Steve, do you want to clarify that, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I think with a half-day design workshop, with the preparation time that would need to be done for that workshop, participation during the workshop, and then follow-up changes by our engineers, I think the cost would start at $10,000 approximately and go up from there depending on the scope of the changes. We don't know how what the scope of those changes are going to be, so it's difficult to say what that total cost would be, but I believe that it would start at $10,000 for a half-day workshop. As far as the cost, if it were $10,000, it would be something that could be covered, would likely be covered under our current intermodal agreement between Troy and Birmingham to share the cost of engineering, and it would be covered by that. If we went, if we went to, say, 3 or 4 meetings and follow-up work by the consultants, that would be completely different matter, and I think we would be in a situation where we would have to look at amending our cost-sharing agreement, because I think we would be exceeding our agreement at that point.
There's a clarification for Steve, if I may. And Steve, what is the source of funds for the intermodal agreement?
The source of funds currently, Birmingham has $300,000 committed to the project, and the City of Troy has $1.3 million committed to the project. And so the funding source is essentially our commitment to the interlocal agreement with our consultants, which the amount is $421,000, and that is split half to Troy and half to Birmingham.
Are those costs reimbursable?
They are not reimbursable, no.
Okay.
And they wouldn't be covered by the money that we're receiving, the federal money, because that was a separate cost factor. Then I need to ask the question, as Council Member Kerwin indicated, as the minutes indicate, but I did not see the meetings because I'm one of those ones that has AT&T Uverse and I can't see the public things, even though I think we should. If suggestions were made before these plans were drawn up of certain changes that were occurred, why some of those weren't incorporated before we came to this time span?
Perhaps Steve can indicate essentially the reason for an increased cost, and I think by doing that he'll answer your question.
Okay, Mr. Burnett.
Well, I'll give a short answer and then I'll defer to Brent. Through the course of our numerous meetings, there were many changes put forward by the planning commissioners, and unfortunately, the planning commissioners did not speak by resolution. So we had multiple suggestions and not a single voice. It started right at the very beginning, at the completion of our preliminary design work by our consultants, Wendell DeShare, for which we had a design grant from the state of Michigan. And quite honestly, none of us, staff and planning commission, were happy with the site that was presented at that time. And we went through a lot of the first couple of meetings doing major redesigns of that. And we have done many revisions and suggestions, including, as Brent mentioned, a complete redesign of the building, which occurred this year. And Brent, if you would add.
Brent, if you may, the question that I'd like you to answer, and hopefully this is the question the mayor asked, is if you have a half-a-day session, why is it going to cost $10,000 of the city's money?
Okay.
Well, I think, can I answer with Mr. Van Dam? I would agree that the crux of the, Councilwoman Kerwin did this. Mm-hmm. The crux of this was, I think Steve's right, it was the fact that we I think there was a feeling that we inherited building design that not a lot of people really liked. Actually, when it came right down to it, no one was really embraced it. And it took some time to redesign, to get consensus, but once we got consensus, I think we were very responsive to input from both committees that design could be improved. And I think what you see before you this evening is a significantly better design that I think speaks to the vision that Councilwoman Kerwin was talking to. In terms of the, I hope that answers the question. In terms of the cost for the meeting, first of all, I think we'd have to sit down with staff and our consultant team to really kind of come up with a game plan for the meeting. But once we did, we'd have to prepare for the meeting, including preparing materials, staff the meeting with representatives of HRC, JM Inc., Partners Inc. Incorporated, Carlisle Wortman, et cetera, have sufficient staffing there. And then once we got the input from the meeting, come up with some deliverables and also present the findings to the Planning Commission, to the Planning Board. It would necessitate at least one additional meeting to bring the findings back to the Planning Boards, which would also necessitate staff, HRC, et cetera, to attend those meetings. So it's kind of a moving target right now because I haven't had a chance to sit down with management and with the design team to come up with a game plan for the meeting. But there's some steps that are necessary to really have an effective and efficient meeting and come up with a product at the end of the day that we can present and we can move forward with.
When I look at what is in the resolution in the bullets, I see that as a complete redesign of this project. By what they have said in here, in those bullets that are there. And so that concerns me. It really does, that we would get to this point and then we say, well, let's just redesign the whole thing. Because we're only building a transit building. This is not supposed to be something that has all these glorious design elements to it that I just don't see why we should be reinventing a building. And that's what I see there.
I didn't craft the resolution. I was at the meeting. I can say that I can say with confidence that the resolution was crafted and put forward to create a project that was a good project that everyone could be proud of. The intent was to create to do something positive.
Yes. And I'm not faulting you for the resolution. I'm reading what is there and interpreting what that would mean ultimately.
And if Madam,
yes, go ahead.
Just real briefly, the points that are in the resolution, the design team attempted to address those points in this design, and I think I think they put their best foot forward to address those points. I think they did a great job of doing so. The Planning Commission, however, has passed a resolution saying that they want to take it a step further and take a little bit extra effort to delve a little further into those points.
Thank you. Councilman Kerwin?
And Mr. Savidan, if you will just stay one more moment. I did see that 3-hour meeting, which had a facilitator. And there were points brought up, and what was wonderful about that meeting was the synergy that was built over those 3 hours. You simply ran out of time. But there was consensus on those items, and Mr. Hudson wrapped up carefully by saying, so there's agreement here, there's agreement there, there's agreement. There were just some things that weren't finished. That's all. And when I see this, it seems to me that it's one last opportunity to finish some of those ideas in a synergistic mode, in a positive mode, to make a better project. Not that marble thing you're talking about, but to make a project that includes best practices that everybody knows who's sitting on Planning Commission, including wayfinding and some of those other things that are addressed. It's not to go back to the beginning and let's redo it. Much progress has been made, and I think this is an opportunity with 2 very strong planning boards to finish it. And that's what I would like to afford them, that opportunity.
Further questions? Mayor Pro Tem Plumbing, is this a question for Brent?
No, just a point, just a comment.
Okay,
on Resolution B, the last item there says that the project shall be developed so that the construction cost does not exceed the approved funding amount. So basically in the resolution itself, it's saying we will not exceed any funding amount, that we're going to keep this within the budgeted funding. All these things here. That gives me some comfort as well, that we're not going to be spending more than we're budgeted.
But Mayor Pro Tem Plumbing, I think we should have Mr. Zerlag indicate that you're looking at the total funding of the project, and you're speaking about redoing this, that it is going to be additional money. Mr. Zerlag?
What I'm speaking about is that there was a cost that was allocated initially before any work was done, if you will, and the work was done at an amount less than what was estimated. So there's money, if you will, that's left over. Okay. If you approve the plan as submitted, we don't spend any more money out of the intermodal transit agreement. Is that correct?
I would defer to Mr. Van Dett on this.
I'm trying to get here, Steve. The question is that.
Yes, it would be correct that we would not spend any more money on the on tweaking the design. We have heard the recommendations of the planning commissioners, and before we finally do the final design work, we will incorporate as many of those recommendations as we can, as we have done all along. However, those recommendations, most of them would be put on hold until we work through our environmental impact statement and review by the Federal Railway. We have submitted an environmental impact statement. We expect to get comments back soon, and when we get those comments, we'll be simultaneously doing final design and addressing those environmental concerns. And at that time, we hope that we will be doing the revision work on with federal dollars rather than our interlocal agreement dollars.
Mr. Zerling?
Let me ask Steve a question another way. Is it possible, if we spend more money out of the intermodal transit joint agreement, and we have other variables to still accomplish, that we would have to come back to the City of Troy for additional funding because we spent more money on this component?
Yes, it's very possible, depending on the scope of the changes that are proposed and how long it takes.
And where would that funding come from?
That would come from the two cities. It would not be reimbursed by any of the grants that we have.
I mean, would you recommend a general fund transfer? General fund balance transfer?
A little out of my area.
Or a capital fund balance?
I would defer to Mr. Lamorato if he were here, but.
Well, he'd refer to me, so it would be a capital fund transfer.
Yes.
Council members, if you wish to speak, you need to ask for the floor. I see a couple of people signaling, but
Madam Mayor.
I think, yes, Councilor Beltramini.
Given what you said, Mr. Van Dett, I have a question, if I may, Mayor. We're talking about thinking about to pass the resolution recommended by the Planning Commission and have this design meeting next week. And if I heard you right, you said that, as Brent did, some of these suggestions had been made before, and the design team felt that they had done their best within these constraints to add those. Final design elements would be taken care of after the environmental impact statement. And so some of them perhaps could be incorporated at that time. Is that what you said? Did I understand that right?
I believe that is a fair.
And then you went on to say, and if we did it then, the feds might pay for it.
That is what we are looking for, yes.
So my thought is, and my leaning at this point, I'll make perfectly clear, like Councilwoman Kerwin, and maybe because we have Planning Commission frustration experience, I share the sentiment that opportunity for one more polish ought to be offered. But I do believe that, given what you just said, next week is absolutely the wrong time to do it. You're going to have some design changes to make based on whatever the feds send you. We always do. And so as part of that portion of the process is when I think this meeting should take place. And if we pass the Planning Commission resolution, that would be my expectation, is that that final polishing opportunity would be made available, but it would be made available as a holistic, tweaking of the design as necessary and warranted at that time, rather than let's redesign this and then you get the environmental impact thing back and it says, oh, well, you can't do that. Well, then we've wasted $10,000 of our own money. So that doesn't seem like a frugal thing to do. But for that reason, I would move to substitute Resolution B for the resolution on the table.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Beltramini, seconded by Councilwoman Kerwin, that to move to substitute Resolution B for the motion that is on the table. Discussion?
Mayor,
Councilman Slater?
I seconded the original
Right.
resolution to get on the table for discussion because I wanted to hear what my colleagues had to say that have a lot more experience than I do. So I welcome what I heard. I'm torn. I like to support what the city administration recommends. I like to support what a commission resolution says. So we have opposites here tonight. I've listened, and I think I've been persuaded that I wouldn't support it if it cost us more money and we were going to have to find it in our own budget. But if we can find the feds, if we can find out that the feds can pay for this, then I think I support that.
Further discussion?
Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman McGinnis?
I too struggled between the two because we had recommendations both from people in city management that I think are well thought out, and a similar recommendation from the planning department. I think both of them obviously are going to accomplish the same thing in terms of granting the preliminary site plan approval. There was some question in my mind coming to the meeting and preparing for the meeting what the workshop would entail, because I think there's a concern that's pointed out here in Resolution B about budget. There are similar concerns that we're hearing from